Thank you for joining me for today's burst of innovation this Monday. It's so good to see so many of you on here today. I am glad we're talking about today's topic because I think it's one of those ones that's very easily gets overlooked and causes a lot of frustration, actually. So when I talk to leaders in our Everyday Innovators tribe, when I talk to them in our community, on our Facebook pages, whatever it is, one of the big frustrations that I constantly hear is, my team's not moving fast enough. I need my team to get on it, right? We know that we have to adapt and change. We know that disruption has happened to all of us, particularly in 2020, and the team gets it intellectually, but they're not moving fast enough. So what I want to give you today are 3 strategies and actually a bonus. And the bonus one, I actually think as a leader is the big one that I really want you to consider. So I'm going to give you that one at the end because it's so important. I did not want to leave it out. But I think the reason that I think that we know that we have this problem because we get frustrated by the lack of results. We get frustrated by the lack of new thinking. We get frustrated as leaders by the incremental, obvious, business as usual words that come out of our team's mouth, the actions that they take. And what I've really come to realize that it is our job as leaders to set an environment that allows for pivoting fast to happen and rewards pivoting fast to happen. The challenge I think we face is that we are, as leaders, right, we want it. We want our teams to innovate and move and adjust and do all that stuff and do it all quickly, but we're not actually setting up a structure that allows that to happen. And in fact, the structures that we do have or did have actually work against pivoting fast, right? The structures we've had in place forever are great for systems, but they're actually not great when you have to pivot, because here you are trying to innovate and think differently, battling against the systems that keep you in business as usual status quo. So I want to give you, like I said, 4 strategies. So 3 that I said I promised, and then 1 bonus one that is one as a leader really want you to consider. I think it's so important. Now, I'm going to go into these strategies. I'm going to share my slide. One thing I just want to let you know is if you go to our website, go to launchstreet.com, we just put up a free PDF download. In fact, we're about to change it. So in fact, I would hold off a week before you do that, because the new one we have coming out is 8 strategies that innovative business leaders use to get recognized and innovate and stand out. So that might not be the exact title, but you get the point. But on the website, we also have to get on notified when our free innovation workshop series comes out. It's a 4-part series. It's free. So I would highly suggest you go to the website and get on that list. That way you actually get the notification when it comes out, and you don't hope to scroll on my Facebook page at just the right moment. Because I don't know about you, but I am trying to be more present and not so much on social media. It's hard for me. I like social media. Okay, so let me talk about the strategies that you as a leader can use to help your teams pivot fast, to overcome that frustration and that feeling of disappointment of getting the business as usual out of them. And I know that this matters because, look, you've got goals as a leader too, right? You've got things you got to hit to your bosses, and you need your team to do that. So let me share my screen and let's dig into this. If you have questions, by the way, as I'm talking, please, please, please feel free to ask me them. Okay, I'm going to flip this. All right, can you guys see the full slide? What are you seeing here? Let me just make sure it's coming up right, because I think I had it flipped. Pull the chat bar. Can you see like a blank screen with my picture on the little far bottom? Let me just make sure, because I don't want you to miss this. Okay, awesome, blank screen. Yes, okay, thank you. Oh, hey, Paul, hey, Mia, hey, Brian, good to see you all. Carolyn. Okay, so let's talk about the strategies. The first strategy is, I know you've heard me talk about this before, is to reward behaviors, not outcomes. Well, why does that matter? Well, when we reward the outcomes, we're actually forcing our people into this perfection zone. We're forcing them into this kind of Russian roulette of it works, it doesn't work. And frankly, the outcomes are too long to wait for to get that incentive, that behavior, that reward. What I've discovered along the way is that if you want your team to pivot fast, you focus on the behaviors and rewarding the behaviors that get you to that change and that fast change, regardless of the outcomes, before the outcomes happen. Look, you're going to get to the outcomes, but waiting to reward the success and then actually kind of diminishing or putting down the failure, or pretending it didn't happen or whatever, is actually going to keep your team from innovating. Nobody wants to be the one taking the risk, putting themselves out there if it's only, you know, as I like to say when I share the bigger story behind this, if it's like cake on Friday or the failure shelf. So I would identify 3 behaviors that, you know, if my team does these things, they will pivot fast, and then I will reward those behaviors. So let me give you some examples. In my company in LaunchStreet, one of the things that I like to do is reward action. So if my team comes to me because they've done something and they want to show me the results, or because they've taken an action towards a change, towards a new idea, even if it's just getting it down on paper, I reward them before I even see the idea. It's not about the idea, it's about that behavior. Because I reward that behavior, I get more and more of it. And they're taking action and they're pivoting fast. So I reward them for taking action. The smallest action doesn't need to be big. One of the Gail, who's an everyday innovator, she rewards disagreement because she knows that if everybody is allowed to debate and disagree, that they'll find innovation. It's when everybody gets to that yes mentality, that group think, that they get stuck in status quo. All right, so find those behaviors that create change and reward those. You know, I love to reward for submitting ideas of any kind at my company. I share that story in my book. I talk about it in the tribe. It doesn't even matter what the idea is, but I reward them for taking the behavior. We get so stuck in outcomes. The outcomes take too long. The outcomes are a game of Russian roulette. Focus on the behaviors. Okay. Now remember, if you have any questions or frankly, behaviors or whatever you want to do, put it in the chat bar. All right. The next one, create a common language and foundation for innovation. Now I'm going to give you a little heads up on this one, a little nugget of wisdom that you can actually implement right away. I want you to take a screenshot. Okay, here's the thing. And this happened to Garrison. He's actually a story that I tell in our new 8 strategies of innovative leaders to get recognized that we're putting together right now. He was super frustrated because he went to his team and was like, all right, team, we need to innovate. We need to pivot. Like, we got some new goals. Our customers have new expectations. We need to move forward. And then he sent everybody off and running, and everybody was excited and everybody was innovating. At least they thought they were. But what ultimately happened is that the team would then get back together, or the team would share their ideas with Garrison, the leader, and he'd be disappointed because it never lived up to expectations, his expectations, and they'd be frustrated because they felt like no matter what they did, they were always disappointing him. Here's the challenge that he was really facing that we dug into and fixed. They didn't have a common language for innovation to say, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is the way that we're going to innovate together. And because of that, everybody was off and running, doing it in a different way. On one hand, Garrison as a leader wasn't recognizing the innovation because it wasn't the way he thought. Oh, sorry. It wasn't the way he thought in his head. And the team didn't really, oh God, sorry. I'm gonna unplug that, sorry. Didn't realize that there was a landline in this room. Okay. The team didn't realize the team didn't know what to do because they were innovating in the way that they thought, right, in their definition. So here's what we did. Garrison went to his team and he gave them our definition of innovation, the one that we've worked on for years to turn into an innovation definition that fosters innovation in everybody, gives you a common language, gives you a way to move forward together. And it's this, those of you in the tribe know this, thinking differently about what's right in front of you to create a competitive advantage. Here's what happened when Garrison sat his team down and said, this is how we're going to innovate. I'm going to break this down for you. Thinking differently, right? A shift in perspective, a new idea, a new approach to something about what's right in front of you. This is the phrase that allows people to breathe easy, because it's not just the big blue skies. That was the other thing. Half his team shut down because they were like, oh, big blue skies innovation. Like, I can't even get there. I got work to do, right? This allowed them to innovate in the things right in front of them. And that meant they took action on the innovation. A common language, a common foundation for innovation allows your team to move forward together. It takes out the exhaustion. It takes out the frustration. It takes out the disappointment. If you do one thing after this, I want you to go give your team a common language of innovation to work from so that everybody understands how to move forward. And the beauty of this definition, by the way, is it's expansive. It doesn't mean that innovation has to look like this. It means that innovation's everywhere. And when your team understands that, not only does everybody win, but everybody understands what it looks like. And because of that, they do more of it. Okay, number 3, ditch presentation, build experimentation. I'm going to talk more about this in the 8 strategies download as well, but let me tell you this. Presentations force us into old structures and old loops that we don't get out of. It forces us to try to perfect an idea on paper. That paralyzes your team. I want you to give them permission to experiment with their ideas. Test it out. Talk to a client about it. Build a mock one-pager. Build a prototype. Whatever it looks like. I want you to give your team the ability to experiment. Here's the thing. Experimentation drives progress, not perfection. Progress drives momentum. It drives pivoting fast. Okay. The bonus one, here we go. You ready for it? Is everybody ready? This is the big one. And this is the one that we all go, oh, because I know I do. Give your team control and accountability. Let go of the idea that everything needs to be funneled through you. Here's the thing with pivoting fast and with change. Part of the reason your team doesn't like change is because it feels out of control. So when you come down upon the mountain with your change of everything, right, and don't give them any accountability, any control of any piece of it, it feels overwhelming and out of control. And we don't do well as humans, right? It's just hardwired into us when we feel out of control. So what I want you to do as a leader is I want you to take a step back. And when they say we have a challenge here, I want you to say to them, you have the room, you have the control and the accountability to go fix it. It may not look the way you would have made it look, but that's okay. What matters is giving your team control. I learned this lesson time and time again in my work. And I'll tell you, Laura, who is my right hand, who many of you have interacted with, she's fantastic. When I've released the reins and said, okay, we need to look into this area, right? Here's the area that we need to figure out and we need to move quickly on. But I've turned to her and said, now you tell me what to do and how you would do it and take the first steps, experiment. She knows our definition of innovation. She knows the behaviors I reward. We've got that covered. But when I do that bonus one, she comes back with incredible innovation and she's taken action. She's moved quickly because I've said to her, you have control. So when your team says, I see this need to change here, give them the accountability and the control to do it. I get as a leader that you have perspective and knowledge that they don't have. Well, give it to them. Why do we hold on to that? Why are we controlling that stuff? Why are we keeping our cards so close to the vest? Why wouldn't we let our teams do what they do best, right? They are smart people. They are innovative people if we give them the ability to do it. Okay, to summarize, reward behaviors, not outcomes. Find those behaviors that you know are going to help your team pivot fast, whether that's experimentation, whether that's taking action, whether that's disagreement, whether that's finding new opportunities or solutions, giving you ideas. Reward those behaviors, not the outcomes. That will get you moving so quickly and pivoting so fast. 2, common language and foundation for innovation. Take out the frustration, take out the overwhelm, take out the confusion that often is around innovation and make it something you all understand so that you can all do it daily. Number 3, ditch presentation, build experimentation. Experimentation is action. Presentation is paralysis. 4, bonus, give them control and accountability. I know, that's the hard part, right? Control and accountability. All right. Those are the 3 strategies plus bonus for getting your team to pivot fast. I want you to tell me in the chat bar, which one as you get off today, which one are you going to focus on? Which one are you going to do to get your teams to pivot fast? Because remember, we need them. We can't innovate in a silo. We can't pivot in a silo. And when we push quick change onto people, the resistors go up. I talk a lot about the brain. We don't have time to do that now, but put in the chat bar, what are you doing? Ditch, Cheryl likes, I like ditch presentation. Yes, I love that one, right? Like, just get rid of it. Like, do experimentation. And here's the other thing with experimentation, you learn what works and what doesn't out of the gate. You don't know that on a PowerPoint slide, right? You know that by doing it. Mia says number 3 all the way. Which one was number 3? Ditch presentation. Yeah, build experimentation. Such a good one. Big fan of that one. let's get rid of the cake on Friday and the failure shelf, right? Those two options. Oh, Sarah says presentation paralyze. Exactly. Presentations paralyze. Experimentation creates action. That's the thing I want you to take away from today. And here's the fun part, that this was a great example of that. I've never said that out loud before until now. There was something that one of you wrote that clicked that into me and made me say it. So again, that was experimentation at its best, right? Right there. Experimentation makes you look smart. That's what Mia says. Yeah, it totally does, right? I love that. Well, here's the thing, right? If I experiment with something and then I go to my team, my leaders, and I say, hey, so I tried this out and here's what worked and here's what didn't, they're more likely to listen if I've got a theoretical slide that's never seen the light of day. I'm not saying there isn't a time and place for presentations. All I'm saying is get some real world examples, get some real world action in it first, then go out and do your presentation. Don't start with that. I cannot tell you, let me get on my soapbox for a minute here, okay? I can't tell you how many times I've been with clients who feel the need to make everything about the presentation and the beauty of the presentation. They spend months on presentation mode, but they don't actually know if it works. Makes no sense to me at all. I share a story in my book, Innovation is Everybody's Business, about Tough Mudder. I would go look up that story because that's a great example. The founders of that were told that his idea, Tough Mudder, which is a multi-billion-dollar business, by the way, across the globe of this like extreme sports and obstacle courses, he was told by Harvard professors in a business plan contest that that idea would never work, that there were not enough customers for it, that it would fail, that nobody wanted this extreme experience. Well, he took $6,000 in one Facebook ad and one event to see if he could make it work. An experimentation. So on paper, it looks ridiculous, but when he experimented with it, turns out he was onto something. And that experimentation allowed him to edit and evolve and tweak and adjust and do all those things. But had he not experimented, he would have never known, because on paper, it didn't make any sense. So experimentation, not presentation. By the way, your experimentation doesn't need to be a $6,000 Facebook ad. It can be scented markers, right? It's like, it's not even, if there's a struggle, Paul wrote, if there is a struggle with feeling comfortable with experimentation, maybe start with a less critical task to build confidence and momentum. That's a really smart point, Paul. Thank you. I think what Paul's saying here, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you're not at the place where you're ready, confidence-wise, or you think in terms of how you're going to be received, starting with an experimentation that's like the core brand you're working on or the big solution, start with something small. A new way to do something, a new small idea that attaches to the bigger idea. Start experimenting there. Paul, I really like that. I think that also gets people used to the idea of you bringing experimentations, not presentations, to the table. Yeah, I really like that. And as much for your team, right? So, right, totally, Paul. Get your team to experiment in small little ways. And here's what I would do, by the way. I would say that if I were, as a leader, what I might consider is going to my team with an experimentation, showing them what I mean by that and giving them the permission to do it by doing it myself. I think that's true with everything else, is show the fact that you're going to do it and then allow them to do it. So same with the behaviors, same with the control and accountability, same with the language, like do it first and show your team what it looks like so that they have permission to do it. It's really tough, I think, because I've been on this side of the table too, where your leader says like, you have permission to do it. You have the room to innovate. You have the ability to think differently. And you're like, do I though? I'm not, are you sure? Like, I don't know if I really do. So think about that too. All right, we're way over today, but this was so rich in discussion that I didn't want to let it go. Thank you all so much for joining me. Great suggestions and insights in the chat bar today. Keep it coming. Just as a reminder, we do not have one Wednesday because I will be in an innovation jam session with our Everyday Innovator Tribe members. So just know that no 10-minute burst on Wednesday. And what else I want to say? Oh yeah, go get on the wait list for the innovation workshop. It's free. So why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that? But you want to make sure you know it's coming and that you're on that wait list. It's on our website, go to launchstreet.com. I'll put it in here. Just the main, I think it's just on the main page, actually. There's 3 options there. Yeah. Cheryl says the idea to show experimentation first. Yeah, really important one. And Paul, no problem. Glad you joined. Okay, everyone. Thank you for being here. Go get on that wait list. I promise you, you'll want the innovation workshop. We're scripting it out now, and it's got some juicy nuggets in it that you are going to want. And I'm excited for it. So, and the new PDF, the new strategies coming out. So don't download the PDF yet. I mean, you can if you want the one now, but I've got a new one coming that I'm even more excited about. Okay, I'm out. Good to see you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that. You have a great week too. I'm glad you thought it was a great session. We covered a lot in a short amount of time. I might have gone too fast. You're welcome, Paul.